full moon Cancer meditation. And in your chat box, I have alerted you to the actual exact full moon service meditation, which Tuya will be presenting. It starts at 1 o'clock a.m. GMT. So if you need the link, just go into your chat box. The actual full moon is at 2:19 and 32 seconds a.m. I've been having a discussion with Brett here whether we should use the Swiss ephemeris or something produced by the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. We have yet to investigate this entirely, but I think that's going to be close enough. And then I've sent most of you a revised program of what we will be doing on July the 5th, at least July the 5th GMT. And it is, we'll be working at, let's see, I think it's going to be, what did I say here? I should really remember this. Thank you for joining a full moon. Okay. Oops. 9:49 p.m. That's when it came in. Okay. There will be two broadcasts on July 5th, one starting at 1 a.m. GMT and the other at 1:45 p.m. GMT. And in the first one, we'll work quite a bit on the background of the triangles work, which is so very necessary at this time. We're having this Pluto opposition to Sirius. And then that will be the preparatory service meditation, and later in the day at 1:45 p.m. GMT, there will be a short meditation, and the link, the same link, will be used for both of them. It's a very serious situation we have in the world. We can see how those countries that are having the Capricorn energy are being very stressed at this time, and really all of humanity as well. So we have these oppositions occurring of Pluto to Sirius. It's the second one in this particular year, 2015. There'll be another one on December 9th. And then we also will have the Vega conjunctions. Pluto conjuncting the star Vega, the star of the word of power, of the mantram. And we certainly need those excellent words of power with a spiritual basis to offset the kinds of seductive words, alluring words of glamour, which are luring people into a negative path. So quite a bit is going on later on, as I say, on July 2nd, early a.m., and then on July 5th, early a.m., and also in the afternoon GMT. And if you live in the United States or you live in Australia, New Zealand, just check and see whether it's going to be on the 4th or the 6th rather than the 5th. Well, okay, last night we had an excellent presentation. The 2025 initiative group that does webinars similarly offered a webinar last night, and Tuya was presenting a lot of interesting information on the sign Cancer. And maybe I'll pick up on one or two of those things, especially the idea of the chest, the jewel box, and the jewel in the lotus. We see, I build a lighted house and therein dwell. What is this lighted house? Will it be the lighted house of the personality? Will it be the lighted house of the soul? That's another question of the causal body. Will it eventually be the lighted house of the monadic vehicle? All of them are temples, and there are other temples along the way, and they all have to be constructed until they are utterly radiant and then destroyed, releasing the volatile essence, the projected monad, the jiva, into a still greater ring pass not. Even the monadic vehicle is destroyed at one point, and, well, the universe itself becomes a lighted house, and it is sequentially destroyed infinitudinously, time after time, and releasing what we are. We are the ray of the absolute, really, releasing us into absoluteness, which I really doubt that we can appreciate while the universe is occurring cyclically. But that is something remains to be seen along the way. We have the Jofra illustration here, and you notice the grasping hands, the grasping claws and the grasping hands. There's a lot of what we might call the tenacity of holding on to that which is not a principle, the tenacity of holding on to matter. And this is done under the influence, the former influence of the moon, which rules our lunar vehicles, our elemental substance coming from a previous solar system, and we still hold on to that pretty tightly. We have to learn how to release that. I keep on thinking, the Buddha's big message to us, not only self-reliance, but to release and no longer grasp the lower world. So in a way, the illumined sign Taurus carries the message that Cancer needs. Whatever we hold on to, by that very holding, holds us as a prisoner in the lower worlds, which are not the real worlds. So somehow the essence of the human being has to slide out of that place where it is captured. Now we might call in one sense, this treasure chest, the place where it is captured. Look at that pearl that is, we see that this oyster is opening up and revealing the pearl, which has been created over many, many millions of years through pain and general irritation. It's somewhat reminiscent of the idea of the jewel in the lotus. It is that which has been, in a sense, created over the duration. But in a way, the jewel in the lotus, or the central fire, is there from the beginning. And it is the ultimate treasure in our treasure chest. And the causal body is that treasure chest in one respect. And eventually, when it is destroyed, that central fire, that jewel in the lotus, is raised up and transferred into the spiritual triad, and eventually back to the crown where it belongs, the crown of the planetary logos on the monadic plane. So it's the jewel in the crown in a certain sense, and we all come from that monadic level, and further we even come from the logoic level and beyond, and our freedom is achieved. I think we can understand that Cancer is a sign in which, if we don't operate properly, it's very difficult to achieve our freedom. But gradually we learn how, under the influence of Neptune, the esoteric and hierarchical ruler, to slip out of that area that is ruled by the previous chain, the moon chain, and by the earlier solar system, slip out and achieve some kind of real liberation into the higher realms. The liberation into, as was discussed last night in Tuya's presentation, liberation into the realm of the triangles. So that was called the lighted triangle in the darkened square, and I recommend that you go to Makara and perhaps attend that, or download it, or look at the video, because it's a great idea. We have to bring the various lighted triangles that we have into the square of substance. The Masonic apron looks like that. It's and the children's drawing of the house, a little triangle above a square, and eventually the flap moves down, and eventually that triangle immerses itself into the darkened square and changes the individuals and the and humanities and the planet's pattern of squares into pattern of triangles. That's one of the that's so necessary if our planet is to become a sacred planet and move away from the lesser influence of the Cancerian energy. There are also higher influences because, it goes on and on, but Cancer veils the Christ, we are told, in this very high spiritual hierarchy. So If we have, well, all of us, we will use the sign Cancer. The DK said, whenever you have a full moon, you use the energy of the zodiacal energy of that full moon to build into your causal body certain qualities which are related to that particular sign. We need all the signs. It doesn't make any difference in what sign we're born. We have to use these opportunities to understand what really needs to be built into our nature. And when I think of the sign Cancer, the theme of lighting up the elemental substance is so strong, but also the theme of wholeness. There's that marvelous mantra for disciples and initiates in the sign Cancer: the whole is seen as one. And I meditate on that long and hard and seek to become that macrocosmic whole as we all are. There really is nothing else. The macrocosmic whole is all there is, and we are not to use anymore the idea my soul and thine. So that's a little bit of a warm-up here, and Francis has produced for us some beautiful images. That's the one we'll talk about second. This first one is maybe a little more modest temple. The full moon is there. The crab is there on the front of the 3 steps, which represent the 3 aspects of the personality and the ascent, and the scarab, which is the symbol of incarnation, but also has the possibility of winged flight, is rising towards the heart. So let's just see, maybe there's a few things that he said. I would really recommend, that you read his text and study it. Cancer text, yes, here it is. It means, he says, scarab means only begotten. Carl Jung did a lot with the scarab. It was an important symbol in the collective unconscious. It stands, therefore, for birth into incarnation, or in relation to the aspirant, for the new birth. And that's what we're all looking for, to have the second death and to, as a result, have the new birth. So this is taken from the Labors of Hercules. I hope you do have that book, even though Alice Bailey excuse me, was not able really to finish that book. It has some marvelous material in it. So the being was immersed in the ocean of life and passed through the wide Cancerian gate and entered into the temple known as humanity. Think of what a temple is. A temple is a definite, finite enclosure which allows for nurturance and for expression. We can't really call the absolute or the one and only, well, we shouldn't even call it the one and only being. Every time you use the word one, you're creating a finitude, okay? But anyway, the absolute, what else can we do? It's not really a temple because it's infinite, absolutely infinite. So for eons the moon shone through that gate, strengthening its threefold form for many millions of years, and after an endless tide of lives, the moon began to wane, revealing a truer source, shining through its dissipating veils. And the Tibetan tells us that, in fact, it is true that the moon is getting smaller and smaller, and by the 7th round will entirely disappear. Now, we don't know whether that's a 7th chain round relating to our 4th chain, or whether that's more a planetary round, a scheme round. If it is, it'll be a longer time, but eventually the influence of the moon is going to disappear, and all kinds of good results will happen from that. So Neptune is waxing in strength now. The veils of our deeper elemental nature that holds us prisoner those veils are being dissipated, and Neptune, that great ultimately second ray planet, is waxing in strength. And the 6th ray part of it, though, is active. The astral trials begin. The symbol of the soul is immersed in form, but it unfurls its wings, and it begins its upward migration. And that's the energy moving from the solar plexus to the heart. Now, seeing the gate into the spiritual kingdom, our disciple chants aloud, I build a lighted house, and therein dwell. And I think we can see the rising scarab here. The idea is it has to make its way into the spiritual realms, which are ruled by the higher chakras of the human being. We all have to deal with our chakras in this liberating way. The six pillars of the temple are in this case, the sixth ray energy of Neptune, and their golden bases represent the fourth ray of harmony through conflict, which rules Cancer through the moon, just as Neptune has a soul on the six rays. So the two rays of the two rulers are represented by the way that the temple is shown. The altar, which represents the higher mind, the seat of the soul, is mirrored. Its mirrored surface reflects and focuses the Buddhic plane down. So we understand that our lower vehicles have to eventually reflect the spiritual triad. We're mounting via the three steps into a higher aspect of our nature. The spaces between the pillars of the gates grant passage into the temple of water and earth along three axes. So we're talking about the Taurus-Scorpio axis. It's rotated counterclockwise already. And the wide gate into incarnation through Cancer stands behind the disciple who gazes towards us through the Capricornian gate. So this is the Capricornian gate, and Cancer is behind him. And above are the marvelous jewel box of the Pleiades. Now, if you think about the relation there between the jewel box and the Rurik painting, it's very interesting. We do have, how can we say it? We have Pleiades, Cancer, Venus. Venus ruling all the rare and beautiful jewels, Cancer the container, and the heavenly jewel box, perhaps even in the one about whom not may be said, is ruled by the Pleiades. There's so much for, if we really want to go into this. And what I would recommend, if you're really interested, I've done this complete book of the Tibetan esoteric astrology. Of course, much evades me, but I've done what I can. And line by line, paragraph by paragraph, trying to interpret what he said there. And if you really have the gumption for some deep study, I would recommend you go to Makara and start working through those videos, which is as complete a job as I could possibly do at this stage of my own understanding. So, anyway, Francis goes on to say that the moon is the esoteric ruler because the axis has rotated, and we have Virgo leading to Pisces, and very interesting idea here. All of these signs related to the moon: Cancer, Virgo, Scorpio, the moon falls; Capricorn, the moon's in detriment; Pisces, the moon has a particular relation to water; Cancer is the ruler. Only Aquarius is left out, and this will be important in the future horoscopes of disciples, he tells us. The Pleiades are up there. The eye of the mother illuminates the point around which our universe revolves, so maybe they are 410 light years away, but our particular one about whom not may be said, and there seem to be quite a few of these types of beings, including the galaxy itself. Can't say much, including the great universe itself, about whom not can be said. Anyway, our local one about whom not be said revolves around the Pleiades. This is what we are given to understand. Okay, so that's and just examine carefully, and when you look at the scarab, you will also see the Neptune involved there as well. Just you have to look closely and enlarge the picture. Now, the other drawing is very beautiful. Let's see if I can find it. Well, that's the text. Okay, I think I should. Here it is. Yeah. Okay, now there are 12 pillars, and again we're looking through the gate of Capricorn, and let's just say that Capricorn is our release on the farther end. And each one of these little figures represents the three periodical vehicles: the personality of the soul, and finally at the heart of things we have the monad itself. And this is a very beautiful blue here. The hierarchical rulers are found here above each one of the portals of entry, and you can see that the whole thing is really glowing beautifully. We have to make our way into this temple for millions of years. We, the monad who is descending, the monad in extension, the monad in attenuation, whatever you want to call it, the jiva, we are going down into incarnation, and we are passing through various temples, the tabernacle in the wilderness, and then the holy place which is the soul, and finally the Holy of Holies, which is our monadic temple. And all of them we have to achieve liberation from, but assuming we do our proper work and master the various fields in which we are immersed. So there might be a few things. I mean, Francis has written quite a bit about this. And let's see, this is the texts. Yeah. We're standing before the ancient Cancerian portal that leads to human incarnation. We see the Capricorn gate, the gate into life of those who know no death. And Cancer, the gate into life of those who must know death. And death is the death of consciousness when it is immersed in the heavy form. So the temple is made up of 12 columns and the 12 lintels forming 12 portals, and they're embossed, those lintels are embossed with the symbols of the esoteric rulers. I guess Aki, I see, because in Cancer the esoteric ruler is the same as the hierarchical ruler. It is Neptune. And the six potencies, the astrological axes, what can you call them? I've called them different things, Aries to Libra, the axis of identity, Taurus to Scorpio, the axis of illumination, Gemini to Sagittarius, the axis of, what can we call it, mentation, and the Cancer and Capricorn, the axis of initiation or liberation, and we have Leo and Aquarius, which we can call the axis of creativity, both individual creativity and group creativity, and finally the axis of Virgo and Pisces, which eventually is the axis of the individual Christ and the cosmic Christ, and leads to our liberation through the quality of love. So the temple is of ancient design, and it stretches, says Francis, back to the time of individualization, when the substance out of which it is made was fashioned and began recording a gradual awakening soul contact. Now, after eons of struggle, its opaque stones have begun to show color and transparency. I think we see that, very beautiful. They're beginning to shine, and the early opacity of those dense substances is being wrought through by the power of the soul. So it's becoming more transparent. It's a lighted house, a temple of light. And Capricorn has a lot to do with light as well. Think about that light theme in both Cancer and Capricorn. I build a lighted house and there dwell, and then Capricorn, lost am I in light, supernal. And on that light I turn my back. So we're talking about a process of some 21 million years, maybe even 25 million years going on here, and it's going to eventually bring about the liberation of each human being. Not all at the same time. Human beings come from various sources, some from the earlier solar system, some from the moon chain, some incarnating on our globe. So I would just recommend reading this, go back to the video and freeze it, I would say, and read it, the words by the Tibetan, the words by Francis. This is a story about the fish gods, and I think the fish gods spawning their creations. The fish gods really are monads. If you really look at what rules the monadic plane, it's not only Virgo, it is Pisces as well. And when they put forth the fish gods, there is a deep journey being occurring by the little units, the incarnating monads. There's so many mysteries having to do with the monads. So, the mysteries are discussed here to a degree, and the unveiled Neptune relates Cancer to no other constellation or sign. For when a man is initiate, he does not react to ordinary feelings, sentiment, or to personality relations as they express themselves in pleasure or pain. These are surmounted, and eventually the watery life of emotional reaction is superseded by the life of the true inclusive love. And I think what we have to do is take our Neptune expression, raise it up from the astral plane, raise it to the love petals of the egoic lotus, raise it to the Buddhic plane, eventually raise it to the monadic plane. The Neptune has a lot to do with the swimming of the monad into the sea of substance, and eventually, when one is like the Christ, we can use Neptune to penetrate into the cosmic astral plane, and our freedom is achieved. So even though this is a sign, Cancer, in a way of great confinement, it is also a sign of liberation. So we thank Francis for his thoughts and the quotations from DK, and for the images especially, and we try to keep these in mind. We review these images maybe once a year, and I think it's quite okay, just to have them in mind, and I'm sure he's quite happy to have people contemplate them, use them to achieve a deeper kind of understanding of the process which is represented by every sign. Okay, friends, so that's kind of a little discussion ahead, and there'll be more, as I say, tonight at 1 o'clock GMT, which is 4 o'clock our time here in Finland. I don't know what time it is for all of you, but maybe it's not too bad, and maybe you can make it. Okay. So here is our meditation, as we know, and these forms come up about once a year, and we try to penetrate more deeply into them. We're really already in the day of safeguarding. We certainly are 12 hours before the actual time of the full moon, and we are receiving the energy and holding it after having approached it for 3 days through the powers of confidence, aspiration, and dedication. And then will come our distributive responsibility. We register registration of the energies. We work with a sense of expectancy, and finally we have confirmed belief on the physical plane. And we certainly can't forget the physical plane when we're dealing with Cancer, because the energies of the third and the seventh ray are so important for us, and they are the most physical of the rays in a certain respect. So we're dealing with embodiment and the transformation of all that is old, excuse me, and coming from a previous solar system or chain, transformation into the kind of substance that can't be irradiated by the energies of this second major solar system. Okay. All right. So enough talk of that kind anyway. And we will enter into the presence of the soul by abstracting our consciousness. We are the soul in incarnation. We try to understand what that really means. We are consciousness facing various fields of experience, but what we are is more essentially the consciousness and the being behind the experience, who is the observer of the experience. So, not the physical nature, not the emotional sentient nature, not the lower mental nature, none of these things. We are being consciousness. And finally, we are pure being itself, but that comes later for us. So as we abstract ourselves from our personal form, we try to get a different idea of our identity altogether. And the next phase of our identity will take us into the sense of the soul and the group soul, the group consciousness, a fluid substance. which is the merging of all of us in consciousness, no matter where we may physically be in our lower form. Our heart is touched, and we can relate to each other in consciousness, and the barriers are down. The barriers which normally would separate us in consciousness one from another, but they are down, and we are merging with each other. And we're merging with the spiritually minded people of the world, the new group of world servers working as souls in their various locations, even though we don't know them personally, many of them. We merge with them in soul, and we have the feeling of touching them, blending with them, and becoming one unity, or recognizing that we are one unity. And we extend that recognition of unity to the men and women of goodwill and their hundreds of thousands, maybe millions really, all over the world. No barriers on the plane of soul. And finally, in our imagination, merging into the one soul of humanity, we realize there is no my soul or thy soul, but only the one soul of humanity, the one consciousness of humanity. And the soul exists whether it's taking incarnation or out of the body, not taking incarnation at the moment. We merge with all souls in the unity. Even if it takes a little time to get that imaginative sense of what's happening there, it's worth the time. To overcome the sense of difference which the personality so often gives. Focus in your heart and find the one soul of humanity. So we're one little group in that great unity. At this time, many groups are working, making their approach to the higher energies and seeking to conduct them. And we work, basically letting our physicality and our emotional sentiency drop below the threshold. We work within the mind, held steady in the light. We work as much upon the plane of soul as we can. We work as much receptive to the inclusive energies of the spiritual triad as much as we can. We have a point of tension in the group mind where we can think together in an enlightened way And the powers of the soul enter that point of tension, bringing the will aspect into that point of tension on the group mental plane. Seven powers: the will to initiate, the will to unify, the will to evolve, the will to harmonize, the will to act, the will to cause, and the will to express. We have all those aspects of the will, for the mind is deeply related to the will, and our group life is animated by those aspects of the will. We're going to stretch from the mental plane, as it were, at that point of tension, toward the impersonal spheres of the spiritual triad, building each one of us a dual-colored rainbow bridge with the quality of our soul and personality ray, imagining that that bridge passes through the mental permanent atom, which generates the abstract mind, and through the Buddhic permanent atom, generating the vehicle of intuition, and through the Atmic permanent atom, generating the vehicle of spiritual will. Just focus on your two colors. They are before you, they're on the screen. One of the soul, one of the personality. Or if you're not certain, you can always use the major synthetic color indigo. And the many dual strands of the group members come together, and we see the seven-colored rainbow bridge, funnel-like, rising with the narrow end of the funnel moving towards what we envision as the monad, the point of spirit, the blue-white diamond, the 12-fold being on the monadic plane. So our group rainbow bridge is seen in the imagination, and we will project that line of radiant, brilliant light across the funnel-like bridge. The wizard's hat, you know. It's not for nothing, those pointed hats on top of the head. And we will use the second ray word of power, I see the greatest light. And we will all project together, and basically we'll sound the outer Om on the note G, while we interiorly announce in our inner space, I see the greatest light. We have to do two things at the same time, use the voice and use the mind. And DK really has us doing many things at the same time, so we can certainly do two. So I see the greatest light interiorly, and in the outer Om, on the note G. We pause and recognize the connection. As a result of this rapier-like projection, we should be able to access together some influences from the spiritual triad, will, intuition, abstract mind, and also understand something, a little of the purpose of the will aspect, group approach to the purpose of Shambhala, even if it's only a little. We need to be impressed by the divine will. Those energies coming from the Buddhic plane, that's where the majority of ashrams are now found. And these great liberated souls, we call the Masters of the Wisdom, we want to stand with them with solidarity. We offer our gratitude towards them, our salutations, our intention to carry out their plans as much as we can understand what those plans are. So that's what our salutations are for, saluting the members of the Christ, or of Christ's hierarchy, with whom we most closely work, and first the Christ himself. And you can, in your homes, you can say these out loud. Salutations to the Christ, the Master of all masters. Salutations to the triangle of masters with whom we most closely work, M, K, H, and D, K. Salutations to the Master Morya, the head of all esoteric schools and organizations. Salutations to the Master Kutumi, whose ashram is most responsible for preparing for the reappearance of the Christ. Om. Salutations to the Master